So, January and February, also known as the dumping ground for horror movies, are now behind us. So let's try to ignore the price of eggs and look to the future. Today I'm going to talk about some horror movies that are coming out this year that caught my attention. Quick and casual video, starting with the obvious, 28 Years Later, directed by Danny Boyle and being released on June 20th. My god, what a trailer. Last year, I did a video reacting to different horror trailers, and it didn't do so well in terms of views, but it was fun dissecting what makes a good horror trailer, and 28 Years Later basically checks off every box. It's rhythmic rather than choppy. It gives you a sense of this world and its tone rather than spoil the plot. The length of the trailer is perfect, and I'm worried that we'll see another longer trailer later in the year and won't be as good. A sequel to 28 Weeks Later had been in development for years, and I think most of us gave up on seeing it happen. So to see this not only be made, but by the same person as the original, is a wonderful surprise. On that note, the original, 28 Days Later, is my all-time favorite horror film if you don't count Silence of the Lambs or Jaws. It's not scary, but it is intense, thoughtful, and heart-wrenching in all the right places. The sequel, 28 Weeks Later, had some great sequences, but the plot contrivances pile up like phone calls to Ezra Miller's attorney at 2 a.m. Now we got the original director back, the original writer back, even the original cinematographer back. And it's in a time when the zombie genre isn't as saturated and can be somewhat fresh again. Based on the trailer, we should expect certain post-apocalyptic hallmarks. Society is trying to get by while cults and raiders ravage the land. But some of the visuals really pop for me. This feels more visceral, not just bloody, but muddy, rough, and sadistic. All in all, it's like a return to form, but with a crew who've had 2 decades to refine their craft. I will say that Aaron Taylor-Johnson has become my new, why are you in everything actor, especially with how distracting he was in Nosferatu. Still, I am beyond hyped for this.
Moving up and down again. Men go mad with watching them. There's no discharge in the war.
Next is Frankenstein, directed by Guillermo del Toro, to be released sometime in November. To start, I'm a little dismayed at the number of horror sequels and remakes this year. Yes, 28 Years Later looks great, and it's been years in the making. Yes, there was 2024's Nosferatu, and now this. But these two aren't so much remakes as adaptations of something classic. Come on, Anaconda. The main enjoyment of the original, at least for me, is that it has probably the strangest cast in film history. Why remake it? Also, let's not forget Final Destination Bloodlines, or Five Nights at Freddy's 2, or the new I Know What You Did Last Summer, or Black Phone 2, or Megan 2, or Conjuring 4, or Hell House 5, or Saw 11, and did I mention that all of these movies are supposed to come out this year? It's a little much, it's just a little much. Oh, and last thing, but what happened to Jack Black? Now he's like the songbird of shitty adaptations. So yes, Frankenstein. Why doesn't this adaptation bother me, other than the fact that, as I mentioned, it's a classic story and so doesn't reek as much of nostalgia bait or laziness? Well, because number one, Guillermo del Toro has stated that it's been his passion project for 25 years, and given his influences, I believe him. And number two, did I mention it's Guillermo del Toro? It's interesting to hear this news after Nosferatu, because it's like the 2 classics are being remade by the most fitting directors possible. Like, of course Robert Eggers would do Nosferatu, and Claude Cassis, the guy who gave us Hellboy and Shape of Water, would do Frankenstein. The cast is stacked. Oscar Isaac, Christoph Waltz, and our Princess of Horror, Mia Goth. And the original score will be done by Alexander Desplat, who composed excellent scores including Isle of Dogs, The Ghost Rider, The Sisters Brothers, and even Del Toro's Shape of Water. I don't have much else in terms of detail, but so far, the stars are lining up. Next is Keeper, directed by Osgood Perkins, which should be out on October 3rd. Perkins is the director of Longlegs, Blackcoat's Daughter, and this year's The Monkey, which I still haven't seen. You may also know him as the tall, awkward guy from Legally Blonde.
I'm sorry?
Information on this movie is sparse, but already intriguing. For one, it's mainly, if not entirely, focused on two characters. Second, the plot starts predictably but could lead somewhere worthwhile. A couple goes to a remote cabin. We've seen that before. But hey, as long as they're not near the cabin from the movie Tarot, the dialogue might not be jambalaya diarrhea. The interesting part is that the guy leaves, and she is stuck in the cabin with some kind of presence. Did he leave her as bait? Is this presence someone who sneaks in, slasher movie style? Or is it something supernatural? Perkins films have a heavy emphasis on mood. Steady shots, shadows, thick sound design. My only issue with his two films I have seen is that this mood is doing so much of the lifting when the story kind of falls apart. Like a designated driver carrying a drunk back to their house while they piss in passing bushes. With a couple and an isolated cabin, the script has to be pretty damn engaging, and if not, the directing has to be mind-blowing. I'm starting to sound like a downer, but I am interested to watch this. Not just the potential, not just Osgood Perkins, but the fact that it's produced by Neon. They're catching up to A24 as far as I'm concerned. We got limited information, like I said, but I think it's something to look forward to. Next is Ash, directed by Flying Lotus, which is coming up pretty soon on March 21st. Most of you know Flying Lotus best from their music, although this is not the artist's first directing gig, having worked on the horror anthologies VHS 99 and Kuso. I have a lot of questions for this movie. First, Flying Lotus is credited as the composer as well as the director, so how will this composer adapt their style to cinema? It certainly worked well for Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. Second, how much of this movie will delve into science and story, and how much will be vibes? Will this be more Alien or more Mandy? And I don't mean good or bad, these are both awesome movies. Speaking of, I do hope it deviates from the Alien franchise as much as it can. No matter how many windows I keep open, I can't get the smell of Alien Romulus' fan service away from me. It stinks. So the less of those kind of callbacks, the better. My third question is, will the visuals look a little better by its release? The CGI looks kind of cheap. This isn't a deal breaker for me by any means, as I'll take cheaper, imaginative visuals over ones that are clean but boring. At the very least, there is vibrancy in this trailer. Aaron Paul is a capable actor, and Flying Lotus's music could be an ideal match for sci-fi horror. I don't know, could be cool.
I don't know what happened here. But when I woke up, there is no one left.
Next up is Him, directed by Justin Tipping and slated for release on September 19th. This is produced by Monkey Paw Productions, which was founded by Jordan Peele. Because of this, I think people will expect something like Get Out, so it's important to note that Jordan Peele did not write or direct this. But I don't mean that as a negative just because Peele isn't directly involved. I mean, Peele isn't God's gift to modern horror. Us wasn't even that good. No, it wasn't. My point is that I'm interested in this not so much because it's kind of sort of in the ballpark of Jordan Peele's work, but because this is a sports horror film. The premise is, quote, an up-and-coming athlete goes to train with a legend who is about to retire. Which sounds normal until you remind yourself that it is, again, sports horror. I think this is a fascinating idea. It's funny, I cover a lot of horror on my channel and I watch a lot of horror, but I still don't think there's so much room to explore in this genre. Drugs, food, old tech, a celebrity couple that sells themselves as adorable but are as toxic as nuclear waste with half the acting range. And sports horror is definitely something with potential. Sure, you could do something more silly, think of a football game with people's limbs flying off. But with a more serious eye, Him could explore the upsetting sides to professional sports like steroids or the agony of injury. It could be psychological, supernatural, or body horror. Also, it's got Marlon Wayans, the much more talented of the Wayans brothers, and I want to see if he can tap into that darker Requiem for a Dream performance. I don't know, it's so early, but I love the possibilities with this idea. Last up is Bring Her Back, directed by Danny and Michael Philippou, that's coming out May 30th. These twin brother directors are also known from the YouTube channel Raka Raka, and their first feature film, Talk to Me. If this isn't the best trailer I've seen in some time, it's probably the creepiest. The tone feels demented. We see violence and rituals that aren't over-stylized, but like something you could picture in someone's basement. The visuals are effectively intimate or foreboding. The music, the pacing, it immediately set me on edge. Trailer aside, I'm excited to see these directors' newest project. Yes, Talk to Me was overhyped for many, but then again, every year there's at least one horror flick that gets so much hype that a chunk of people are bound to get disappointed. Sure, I had my problems with the film, but what I enjoyed about Talk to Me was how well it combined the supernatural and the realism of these characters and settings. The sound mixing, the montage sequence, the makeup, they were all creatively and skillfully put together. These guys have serious talent, and I can already see some of it again based on the teaser trailer. Sally Hawkins is playing the lead, and while I haven't seen her in horror, I have a lot of confidence in her abilities. Not only is she a skilled actress, but watching someone who often plays the sweet and genteel in this kind of movie could be a great combination. I'm crossing fingers that bringing her back will be as unsettling as it looks. This is a perfect snippet of what I want, a movie that goes to new places in order to scare me. Here's hoping. So those are some horror films I'm looking forward to this year. Any good ones I missed? Seriously, I would love to know, so please comment below. Check out my playlist for more horror videos, subscribe and share to support the channel, and as always, thanks for watching.